Two-faced. Not a nice word, right? Have you ever used hypocrisy? I know that society condemns it, but I think that each of us has tried on two skins. It all depends on the situation, on the person you're talking to. I have such a friend, a real duplicitous. She's a good actress, and she played a big role in my life. What, do you sympathize? Watch my video for starters and then judge and write comments. I'd appreciate it. My name is Elizabeth Grace, and my friend Fiona Long. We have been friends since we were very young. Fiona was close to my family, very close. But one day, my father decided to take total control of my life. As a teenager, growing up without a mother, essentially all alone, I didn't like that. I staged a riot, we fought, and I decided to pack my bags and leave my tyrant, all-powerful father. He'd always loved only himself anyway. Meanwhile, my hatred for him grew, deep and immense. My father took away my credit card, and all I had left was my stuff, my phone. Fiona took me in without a word, and I moved in with her. Undoubtedly, I was very grateful for her help. Since my father and I no longer spoke to each other from that moment on, Fiona was my only bridge to communication. Through her, my father would ask me how I was doing, if I was okay, but knowing my father, I knew that those were not all the questions he asked. Fiona was quietly leaking to him all the information about me, who I was hanging out with, whether I went to school, where I went, and where I got my money. And whenever my father invited her into his office or to work in his office, she would tell him everything in detail. That was him. He was used to knowing everything about me, and he was uncomfortable too, with the fact that his only daughter was now unsupervised. One day, Fiona came to him and told him that I'd taken a job in a cafe as a dishwasher. I can imagine his reaction. He was gloating that his white-haired daughter had finally made it to the dirty work. Since I did not go to reconciliation, he was waiting for me to wail and crawl to him out of despair. But that never happened. Whenever Fiona wrote to him that I'd brought home groceries with the money I'd earned, he would tear up and throw up. A couple of months later, Fiona told him that I'd taken out a cheap old car on credit. The very next day, all the tires on that car were slashed. I knew he was doing it, so I calmly reacted, went into debt, and fixed it.
Who did she borrow from?
My dad yelled, and a friend reported that I'd borrowed it from a bad guy in the neighborhood. Rumor has it he's a pickpocket, a crook, and also sometimes a drug dealer. My father's reaction was irresistible. I wish I could have seen his flushed face, but alas, I wasn't aware of it. But he decided to get back at me, to create even more unbearable conditions. He came to the cafe in my absence and gave the owner money to fire me. Dad thought I'd get desperate again because, in addition to my running debts, I also had a car loan. My evil, tyrannical father didn't stop there. That car was stolen from me, and since the car still had all the paperwork for it, I filed a police report, but the case was hopeless. I knew he was the one who made sure that car was never found. In the end, it turned out even worse, but that didn't break me either. Another time, Fiona brought him the news that I'd started dating a bad guy I'd borrowed money from. Dad had sent a group of guys over while we were out walking, but it's okay, we got away in time. And then he called me.
Where are you? Tell me. I'm coming over, we have a lot to talk about. You've pouted enough. Let's solve problems like adults,
he told me, and I said to him, Adults? Well then, why are you putting things in my way? I asked him. Dad started to deny everything, and I said that if it hadn't been for Fiona, I would have died of hunger or cold a long time ago.
I know it's hard for you, but what makes you think I did it? I had nothing to do with it. I don't know what you mean at all, he said. He was stubborn, but so was I. I said I had a date, and hung up on him. The same night, Fiona left again. I could hear her talking to him on the phone. I arrived at the cafe where they were sitting. My father handed Fiona an envelope of money. He asked her to give it to me, but she refused. But how? It's not like she knows we're in touch. If she finds out, she'll stop telling me everything and leave, Fiona said. Daddy thought about it. Then he gave Fiona the envelope as a thank you for leaking the information. He also asked her to get my signature on an important document. I was a shareholder in his business. I was about to turn 18, and he needed my signature to make a big deal with one of his clients. Without my signature, the contract was invalid. He asked Fiona to do it for him as neatly as possible so that I wouldn't guess anything. So my friend came home, threw the folder on the table, and went into the shower. I got a good look at them, put them all back, and Fiona came out of the bathroom. "Oh, you're home already?" she asked me. "Yes, where did you go?" Fiona looked at me silently. I took all these documents, an envelope of money, then asked her to do something for me. She went to my dad's office on the day of my birthday.
She threw the documents on his desk and told him that there was a piece of paper missing. While he was checking to see if everything was in place, I went into the office with his big clients. Dad was dumbfounded. He wasn't prepared for a meeting like this. We sat down at the negotiation table and I gave the clients a new contract, which they happily signed and I signed too. I knew there was no way in hell Dad was going to figure things out in front of them, so he glimpsed the paperwork and signed the papers too. When the clients left, Dad got up from his seat and demanded an explanation.
What the hell is going on here? How did you find them and why did you bring them here? What was that about?
Well, Dad, didn't you expect it? Have you forgotten that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree? Aren't you embarrassed by the fact that my friend has been too open with you about everything? Did it ever occur to you that all this, Daddy, is just a rapper? That there's no rogue boy I'm dating? That I've never worked in a coffee shop? And that my friend would leak to you everything that was going on with me? She only told you what I asked her to tell you. Dad blushed.
What does that mean?
I sat down on the desk in his office and continued. While you were busy with my personal life, Fiona was playing a double game, diverting your attention. I know where your weaknesses are. She wasn't the one who told you all about me. I was the one who kept you in the loop. And while you were busy trying to sabotage me, while you ruined Fiona's ex-boyfriend's car, Dad, I was making contacts with your big clients. I managed to forge all your signatures and put the money in my name, with the help of my friend, of course. Thanks for signing so many checks. Your signature came in handy, I told him. I made sure all the money went into my account, which I have access to after I'm 18, and all the work on the contract should be done by my father. Not good, say you, but was it humane of him to take advantage of my friend? Trying to win her over to his side for $200 a meeting.
I'll get you for this,
he shouted. You what? Daddy, what, are you going to sue me? But it's all legal. We didn't cheat anybody. Well, we made some adjustments by using your plans against you. When you also cheated on my mom and left her with a bunch of debts, took me away and then decided to ruin her life too. It didn't work out for you, did it? And now I have to go. I'm going to Mom's in London, by the way. I've already transferred all the money to her account. So long. Fiona and I walked out of his office, and I could hear him knocking all the furniture over in anger. All because he shouldn't have done that to me, or my mom. Dad had been a tyrant my whole life. It was just that I finally got him back. Fiona and I took the next flight to London, where my mom was waiting for us, and we went to see her. Do you think that's it? My dad had another surprise coming. Soon the three of us will be there, and my mom will be in action. When he took everything away from her, now we intend to get back all her money, down to the cent.
Hi everyone, my name is Dickie, and I want to share with you the story of how my family disowned me. I agree that this is hard to believe, and any normal person will first think that this is a monstrous act, that you can't do this, and that only monsters are capable of it. But you know what? All. What is done is all for the best. I saw this for myself, because after this incident, I became a really happy teenager. I was born in a family where there were usually no guests, where the house was always a mess, and usually there was nothing to eat except semi-finished products or fast food. At first, let me tell you about every member of my family. This is my father, Pays, who is older than middle-aged, but still has a strong personality, such an energetic man with a huge mustache. My dad always liked to dress brightly, like a red jacket or a fun hat. My father didn't know where he worked. It was like this all his life. Maybe I don't know where he works, or no one knows, but he was clearly doing something illegal. I wasn't interested in the details, so I just kept out of his business. My mother, Susanna, loved herself, her nails, and her stupid dog, Linda, too much to have time for her own children. I don't remember my mother ever cooking food from the stove, and in general, we only needed the kitchen in the house to eat, but not to cook. If my mother didn't eat, she was surfing the internet or flipping through magazines with a dog in her arms. She didn't work because my father provided for us well enough. I also have a brother, Palmer. He was as dumb as our dog. Palmer looked like the Pope, was the same full and narrow-minded as both parents. I know you can't say that, but it's true. None of my ancestors had even finished high school, and Palmer was almost on the dropout list. It is not clear at all who I went to. I was not like any of these three, either in appearance or character. Thank God, in brain. I was different. Palmer often joked about how I was stupidly thrown and that I was not native. But I was not particularly upset, but on the contrary. As you already understood, I didn't find a common language with my family, so I didn't really talk. Usually, I'd come home from school, lock myself in my room, do my homework, prepare my sandwiches. While I was doing my homework, I would eat a meal after, or rest, or go for a walk. I had a couple of friends. They were cool guys. One of them I was best friends with. His name is Ryan. This is my best friend, and we lived not far from each other, on the next street. Ryan always helped me with my lessons or whatever. Every time my parents went on a party, he and his mother would leave me at their house so I could spend the night there in peace. I just loved those moments. Ryan's home environment was very different. He didn't have a father, but his cool mom was so kind. When I came, his mother would cook a delicious dinner, meat with vegetables, casserole, spaghetti, or something else homemade. I loved this kind of food, and I was tired of sandwiches for a long time. Ryan's mother was surprised when I told her about my parents, and felt sorry for me. I knew she was right when she said it shouldn't be like this. It would be nice to stay at Ryan's house. By the way, he asked me to stay more than once, and each time I wanted to, but I couldn't. I knew how my crazy ancestors would react. They would make a big deal of it and yell at the whole street that I had been stolen. And then what should have happened? Palmer loved trying on her clothes and putting on makeup without knowing it. I knew it because I saw it. He promised to kill me if I told, so I didn't. Once again, while parents were out, Palmer ran to the parents' bedroom, and this time he's a little over the top. I told you he's a chubby guy, and he's gained even more recently. Anyway, he tore up my mom's Chanel dress, which was super expensive. At that moment, my mother came home, and this idiot ran out to her, shouting that I had torn her dress. My mother believed her beloved son and gave me a beating. I got so that it did not seem enough. After the punishment, I was so angry that I ran into Palmer's room, pushed him off the chair, and started hitting him in the face. My mother ran to our screams, picked me up, pushed me out the door, and said that I was not a child, but an animal. My father came in the evening and gave me a punishment for it. Palmer was an innocent child. I was so tired of the injustice that I started to cry. My parents, feeling sorry for the older one, pointed a finger at the door. The father shouted that I was no longer his son. I ran out of the house and ran wherever I could see. I've never felt this bad before. No, I'm not upset that I got kicked out. I'm upset that everything is so unfair to me. It took strength and patience. I ran, not knowing where. In the end, my feet led me to a familiar house. A house with which I associate only good things. A house where I am warm and cozy, where I am always welcome. "Hi, Dickie. Come in, of course," said Ryan and his mother to me. They gave me a delicious dinner, during which I described the situation. Ryan's mother was horrified, and then made a bed for me in Ryan's room. I lived there for 4 days. On the 4th day, my parents came to my school. Suddenly, my mother and father began to apologize. They asked me to forgive them, offered to buy toys, books, and I did not understand what was happening. I came home in the evening and didn't recognize the house. It was clean, for the first time in my life. My mother did the cleaning herself, cooked dinner, and everyone was at the common table, eating with appliances and treating me. I was alarmed by the behavior, but I ate and went to my room. At night, I went to the kitchen for a drink of water and heard the family talking. Do you realize that we can stay outside, right? Why did your mother choose Dickie and leave him the house as her inheritance? He can kick us out, you know, my mother shouted at my father, and Dad yelled back at her that it was all her fault for giving birth to someone as defective as me. And then it all became clear to me. My grandmother left the house to me, in which we lived, so it is rightfully mine. But I didn't want to live with them. I wanted to live alone now, because they were away from me. I took out a recorder and recorded everything my parents said about me, including that they wished me dead. The next day, the police and guardianship authorities heard the recording, and Ryan and his mother were next to me. As a result, my parents were deprived of the rights, even jailed for a while for threatening me, and Palmer and I were supposed to be sent to boarding school, but I didn't want to go there. At this point, Ryan's mother offered to help me and I agreed. She adopted me. After we finished everything, we moved into my big house, and the 3 of us lived there. Now I had a new family, much better and kinder, just like I wanted. What would you do if you were me? Write your opinion in the comments, put likes, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.